The DAX, the FTSE, the EURUSD, the cable, even Australian markets have all had this particular move to the upside here. I can take it at face value and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a top here, and then have an ABC correction here. Some markets, even the gold markets like this as well, those commodity markets, they are correcting already. The FTSE does appear to have 5 waves down from the top. This market appears that it could also be like the S&P and have another little push to the upside here. So these markets that have been pushing to the upside here are really been the reverse image of the US dollar moving to the downside. And with the US dollar here, we do have 5 waves up off the low here. So we will have a correction and then another 5 waves up. We can have an ABC pattern and then move down, or we could have this 5-wave structure up here as wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a larger A, B and C. This is yet to be defined. It does appear that the currencies will do this, and it does appear that the indices, well, should do this, but there is a bit of an issue with all of this because this move to the upside here is quite clean from the October lows. When we take a look at the S&P from its October lows over here, then we've got this situation where we've got 3 waves up where the rest of the world's got 5 waves up. So I'm looking at this as being bullish, but if I'm looking at this being bullish, then I need to look at this here as still continuing its trend to the upside here from wave 2 here as wave 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 and 5 moving up for a 3rd wave, 4th wave and 5th wave. So being bullish, much the same, but just a completely different pattern. So as long as this moves up through here, then this will continue to be bullish. If it moves back here for whatever reasons, while the US dollar is pushing to the upside here, then we'll have an issue at this point. But if this is going to continue to the upside here, then, you know, it's likely that the DAX could play along with that particular move to a point, you know. Perhaps the movement back here as an ABC is not going to be that dramatic. Perhaps maybe I've got this particular count wrong, and we'll need to look at this as all up for, we've talked about this before, as wave 1 here and 2 here. That would line it up with the US markets at that point, looking at this as wave 1 and 2 here. So that's also a possibility as well. And then that would make this move up here much smaller at this point, as a little 1 here and a 2 over here. And while the US markets are going through these 4s and 5s here, which can get 4s can get quite complicated, that might give these markets enough time to have this 1 and 2 playing out here. And it will also give time too, because of, you know, some of those other markets that are being affected by this here, such as the gold market here, well, just GDX here, and the gold market, we've been tracking 5 waves up from it. So, well, the gold started in late September, but all these lows come from, you know, the 25th of September to early November lows for the Bitcoin, but all of them are doing the same sort of thing. Now, some of them are correcting like this gold market here, and they'll have their ABC correction and move off. So that's in direct reflection to, no, not direct, but reasonably in tune with what's going on in the US dollar market. So the other point here too is that I'd also be looking for a classic trading levels pattern here. Now, as I mentioned, the FTSE is already coming down in 5 waves, and some but this one looks like it needs to follow the US markets up there a little bit further. So let's just have a little look at this here. So we can put wave 4 over here, but it's probably better to sync it in with the other markets and move it in over here. Now, if that's the case, we can have this top in play here, but also too, I've been counting that this particular pattern here is very much like you know, the S and the P and the Nasdaq. Let's just have a little look at the Nasdaq just to be a little bit different here. So you can see with the Nasdaq here, that we've got this nice sort of pattern here like this. This is very similar to the to what's happening with the DAX here, isn't it? You know, so it's likely that this can push up here and make a new high. It's not like this is 5 waves, but it could turn into 5 waves. It could have 1 and 2, then 1 and 2, and then down again here, but it's probably more likely to be an ABC based on what we can see with the US markets, where the FTSE is completely different. It has a nice 5-wave structure down from its top here. So with the FTSE, we can look at it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we could look at it as also wave 1 over here as well. We can do all those sort of things, but in one way or another, this is 5 waves here, 1 and 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the third, fourth, and fifth. And we've been looking up. So the fourth is made new lows here, where the DAX didn't make new lows here, but we should put the wave 4 there at that point. If we go to the drill into this into the 100 ticks and look at it from the top here, let me just get in a little bit more data here. So from the top here, the move down here is completely different. It counts down quite nicely as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, looking for an ABC pattern here, and then coming down. Now, obviously, I've got one of them wrong, because if the DAX continues higher, you'd think the FTSE would continue higher as well. You know, have I got this wrong, this count? I'm not sure. I know we can go short under that's 5 waves, so we can go short under that, and we'll probably adjust that tomorrow to see if we can catch that next leg down through to here. So yeah, there's that's kind of how it is at the moment, really, with all of this. So just need to keep trying to sort of figure it out a little bit. So if this is 5 waves down here, then if it's 5 waves down, we should get a correction, another 5. We should have a, you know, if it's going to be a corrective move, we should have some sort of, you know, reasonable sort of correction. You know, a wave 2 can come down 50-60%, but normally around the wave 4 sort of area here would be fine for that. But yes, this is quite big. So in this particular instance, then that would be a good indication that the DAX, the dollar, can have this larger correction here. So we'll just have to sort of keep an eye on this. But this having a turning point in the market here with an impulse wave to the upside certainly affects commodities, because I need to the value will need to be readjusted in US dollars depending on what country you're in, and yada yada yada. But how it will affect the indices, I'm not quite sure, depending if they're commodity dollars, commodity countries or not, like Canada and Australia and so on. But the 5 waves down here is pretty much a reasonably direct reflection of the US dollar. So kind of we'll keep that in mind a little bit there for those markets. And for the euro here, once again, just on the daily chart, we have been counting this up here as 5 waves, and that's why I'm going to look at the dollar here as 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and starting its correction, either this one or this one here, and that will reflect back over here for these. So it does appear we're getting a little 5 waves down here for this. So an ABC here. So the smaller ABC kind of looks, this smaller ABC here looks a bit more reasonable for these markets and for the commodity markets as well, but I can't say that for sure just yet. But we've been looking for a turning point. Our target was 1.1. That's been touched on. We'll just chill in here for a moment on the 100 ticks just to get some sort of bearing on that little pattern within that space. So I haven't had a great time, a lot to look at this, but that's definitely 5 waves to here. So I just went wave 1 and 2, then 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5 for the third wave, fourth wave, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down here for this one, and then the ABC pattern here. But it does look like the S&P wants to push higher. Well, I hope it does. I'm long in that at the moment. But yeah, so this might just sort of push up here, but I'm not ending in 5 waves from here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be interesting to see how that sort of plays out. I could have this wrong, and I could make it more bearish and do a few other things, but the main point here is that we're getting that impulsive wave down, so an A and a B and a C wave down here for that. And the pound is a little bit wobbly on its move to the downside. So if we take that as a top here, the wave 1 down here doesn't count very nicely as wave 1. It's more like a 3-wave structure, but I could probably get 5 waves out of it if I had a really closer look. But I need to go with it because I've got this 3-wave move here, and then we got 5 over here for 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So it looks like it needs to play out lower as well here for the pound, which would, be about right. So we still don't have 5 waves down here yet. It could be an A and a B and a C wave down to this point and go up from that point. But yeah, it started. That's the main point, and this is what we've been looking for and all those sort of things. So we'll just see how that plays out. But yeah, commodities to the downside, compares, these sorts of pound and euro here to the downside, dollar to the upside. So we just really need to figure out what we've got here. One of the things that we can do next with this, we've got 5 waves here, we'll be able to see how this C wave goes, because normally a C wave is quite lazy. I'm just being a bit of a drama analyst here by putting it quite like that. But if it was going to be a 3rd wave up like this, then it would be quite strong to the upside. So we'll just keep a bit of an eye on that, see what angle that is, then we'll be able to work out what we've got at this point. I mean, one would expect it to, it's a little bit small at this point, but it's quite big on the Australian dollar and some of the other markets. But anyway, sort of, we'll piece it together as it unfolds. We don't need to do anything. You could buy the pullback if you wanted to, as an ABC pattern. But that's where that is at the moment. So looks like the DAX is pushing up a little bit there, which is kind of expected as the S&P started to push up. It's still a bit flat there. Once it finds support on the 15, it should push up. But yeah, so that's where we are with everything. I'm not sure what else to add to these markets. So basically, we've been looking for tops. The DAX looks like it can move up and make another move up here. The FTSE is kind of giving us that 5-wave move to the downside. But, maybe I got it wrong on the FTSE, and it needs to push up here a little bit further. But I can see we've got 1 and 2 here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 1 and 2 to here. And then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the 3rd wave. We've been working for the 4th wave. We've been long in the move up here. It's not the best looking 5 waves here. It could push up further, but one would say that, that's pretty impulsive to the downside that we're looking at here, isn't it? I mean, sure, you could look at it as an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave here for that. I understand that. But, that's, the first thing that jumps to my mind is that this is, reasonably bearish at this point, So, yeah, we can move this up under here now. Yeah, anyway, you can be long in this for the time being, but there's probably a turn up around that box area up here. If you wanted to short this, then as this market moves up here, it looks like it's going through a bit of a 3rd wave up here, so it'll sort of push up. So when it comes back here, if we use the classic trading levels pattern, there will be a little classic trading levels pattern in here, but once it moves up here quite high up here, when it drops back, it will bounce and then it'll drop through and then it will retest. So it'll leave you that low exposed at that point, this type of thing here, the level there. So you need to wait for it to come through. It can come back above the level, of course, in these cases, and make it a bit more complicated. But if you just keep your eye on the ball, so it's this low and then the second low, and then if it goes back above the level, then rinse and repeat. This little pattern in here will be the same version of this larger pattern in here, a classic trading levels pattern in here. Then you can work it from here and work it down at that point. But you definitely need the closest largest number as the resistance, and that's the 850 there. 5 is the second strongest number, so between 800 and 900, this is the one here. Of course, you've got 10, 20 and 30 in here as group 1, and then you've got the midpoint, and then you've got group 2, which is the 65, 7865, 72 in here, and the little 80 here. So between 8 and 9, you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 and 8. So we'll just see how that plays out. Look, it could turn bullish and move up through here. That's what the DAX is telling me. It's what the FTSE is telling me. I mean the S&P 500. But this one here is a little bit different. This market can do its own thing. It doesn't have to listen to the other markets, you know. The Australian market's also a little bit like this as well, to the downside. Let's just check on that for a moment, actually. We've got the same sort of top with the Australian market sort of working through with all of that. This was a little bit rougher at the top here. You know, the Aussies are a little bit rough around the edge. So we've been looking here at, this is like the FTSE coming down in 5 waves, you know. So we can look at this here as a little A wave here. And we had noted that this was 5 waves up. And even though it made a new low here, it's still a B wave. It's not 5 waves from here down to here, you know. So we can put the C wave up here for this. So this has got the same, well, there's a strong relationship in trade between Australia and the UK. I mean, there's more to it than that, of course. You know, we've got the same law, we've got the same accounting. All of those sorts of things that were implemented as a colony, so to speak. So in this case here, you know, this is kind of interesting really, because we've got that nice impulse wave and we've got this here. So that will just give us basically the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4 and the 5 here, and then down at that point. So that's pretty much in line with the FTSE. You know, the FTSE's got a better looking 5 waves down here. This is this one overlaps a little bit, and you know, but you know, the Australian market's a tricky little thing. It's just mining and finance, you know. It's basically, and those two when those two are running together, then it makes life easier. When they're not running together, it's it creates a real choppy environment. But yeah, this is nice and smooth. So we can look for a move up into the 78.65 to 78.70 there, and probably roll over at that point. And if that's the case, then we can use that. You can use that 78.50 to build in short positions, because this leg here, we should see a mirror image of this one over here, roughly the same. You know, it might be faster down, it might be slower down, but it'd be much the same. Be interesting. So we've got this problem where the DAX can move higher, and the S&P can move higher as well. I mean, maybe we've got the S&P wrong here, and maybe it just goes up here like the rest of them and then folds down here, makes it more complicated here. It's just that this whole move here doesn't count very nicely. I'd have to make that a DXY here, or something like that, to have a top in place here, which we talked about on the S&P. Yeah, we'll just see how that plays out. Alrighty, it's enough waffling. I will leave it at that. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.